Toto. I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore. We must be over the rainbow.
You're probably right. Now, ladies, where exactly are we going? Exactly.
Where the rainbow ends.
Where the rainbow ends.
Don't you want to go where the rainbow ends?
Well, now that depends where that is.
Well, let's find out.
Ladies and gentlemen, by way of introduction, this is a film about trickery and fraud, about lies.
Tonight, we are going to witness the most anticipated match in the history of professional wrestling for the heavyweight championship of the world.
We must stop the terror. I call upon all nations to do everything they can to stop these terrorist killers. Thank you. Now watch this drive.
It's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Yeah, because you'd be in jail.
Secretary Clinton.
Si on n'a rien à cacher, il ne faut pas avoir peur.
One of the things you've been talking about on your show is your allegation that government officials are aiding in pedophilia, child trafficking, and the grooming of children, right?
Well, you mean like what Jeffrey Epstein did with the Clintons?
There are always 2, 3, 4, 5 sides to every question. That the singularity disappeared. And that, I believe, has produced such a medium as the internet, which absolutely establishes and shows us that we are living in total fragmentation.
Donald J. Trump is now president of the United States. President
I don't think we've even seen the tip of the iceberg. I think the potential of what the internet is going to do to society, both good and bad, is unimaginable. I think we're actually on the cusp of something exhilarating and terrifying. I'm talking about the actual context, and the state of content is going to be so different to anything that we can really envisage at the moment, where the interplay between the user and the provider will be so in simpatico. It's going to crush our ideas of what mediums are all about.
Wrestling fans, are you ready?
Since the 1970s, two corporations have gobbled up most of the Earth's companies. Vanguard and BlackRock. These two mega corporations own all the smaller corporations, so we have a monopoly inside of a monopoly. Vanguard and BlackRock own Coke and they own Pepsi. They own Apple and they own Android, i.e. Microsoft. They own American Airlines, they own Delta. They own oil and they own solar. They own eBay and they own Amazon and they own the car companies and the pharmaceutical companies and the tobacco companies, the food companies, the clothing companies, the insurance companies, the banks, 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 the banks. No matter what industry, the top shareholders are the ones making the decisions. Call me a dingleberry, but if you own all the competing companies in the free market, then I don't think the market is all that free.
You have no choice. You have owners. They own you. They own everything. They own all the important land. They own and control the corporations. They've long since bought and paid for the Senate, the Congress, the state houses, the city halls. They got the judges in their back pockets. And they own all the big media companies, so they control just about all of the news and information you get to hear.
The sharing of biased and false
news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish things they simply aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think, and this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
They got you by the balls. They spend billions of dollars every year lobbying to get what they want.
Good Morning America is brought to you by Pfizer.
CBS Health Watch sponsored by Pfizer.
Anderson Cooper 360. Brought to you by Pfizer.
ABC News Nightline. Brought to you by Pfizer. Making a difference. Brought to you by Pfizer.
CNN Tonight. Brought to you by Pfizer. Early Start. Brought to you by Pfizer. Friday night on Aaron Burnett Out Front. Brought to you by Pfizer.
This Week with George Stephanopoulos is brought to you by Pfizer.
This weather report brought to you by Pfizer.
Today's countdown to the royal wedding is brought to you by Pfizer.
Well, we know what they want. They want more for themselves and less for everybody else. But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them. That's against their interest.
See, I think there are two ways in which people are controlled. First of all, frighten people, and secondly, demoralize them.
That the process that creates this boredom that we see in the world now may very well be a self-perpetuating, unconscious form of brainwashing.
We don't want people to be educated, healthy, and confident, because they would get out of control.
And that all of this is much more dangerous than one thinks.
1% of the world's population own 80% of the world's wealth. It's incredible that people put up with it, but
somebody who's bored is asleep, and somebody who's asleep will not say no.
They're poor, they're demoralized, they're frightened, and therefore they think perhaps the safest thing to do is take orders and hope for the best.
And you know something? They'll get it. They'll get it all from you sooner or later, because they own this fucking place. It's a big club, and you ain't in it. You and I are not in the big club. By the way, it's the same big club they used to beat you over the head with all day long, where they tell you what to believe. All day long, beating you over the head in their media, telling you what to believe, what to think, and what to buy.
The idea that the piece of work is not finished until the audience come to it and add their own interpretation, and what the piece of art is about is the grey space in the middle.
One of the problems is that we don't have good language for dealing with multi-layered deception.
It's all a fugazi. You know what a fugazi is? Well, fugazi, it's a fake.
So what I did is I started to look into professional wrestling and what are all of the terms that they have to maintain to keep track what the actual storylines are, what the simulated storyline.
Fugazi, it's a wazi, it's a woozy, it's a...
A worked shoot is actually something that is set inside of a fake storyline, is apparently real and breaks the fourth wall, but is in fact fake. So you're talking about tertiary and eventually quaternary levels of deception. I don't think the human mind can do much more than 4 layers of lying.
Fairy dust, it doesn't exist.
Kayfabe is the organized structure of lies that undergirds professional wrestling and is kept it as a simulated sport for about a century.
It's never landed. It is no matter. It's not on the elemental chart.
There's a real competition for airtime, for fame, but there's a fake competition, which is a scripted series of pretend bouts where the decisions are actually known in advance.
It's not fucking real, right? All right. Stay with me.
That's very similar to what I see happening in war, in finance, in media, and particularly journalism.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist. What are you saying? This is bullshit. This is bullshit. I'm not listening to this. You are insane.
No, you're insane. And we simply do not have time for this crap.
It's called a changeover. The movie goes on, and nobody in the audience has any idea.
I am not Morgan Freeman, and what you see is not real. Well, at least in contemporary terms, it is not. What if I were to tell you that I am not even a human being? Would you believe me? What is your perception of reality? Is it the ability to capture, process, and make sense of the information our senses receive? If you can see, hear, taste, or smell something, does that make it real? Or is it simply the ability to feel? I would like to welcome you to the era of synthetic reality. Now, what do you see?
like lemon drops high above the chimney.